Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Have another of my interviews with executives of mining companies. And this one's an interesting story. I don't follow a lot of royalty companies, but I like where this company is on its growth curve. And I'm also very aware that in the 1990s, which were a tough time for the mining space, one of the best performers was Franco-Nevada. And I recently heard Pierre Lassonde say that the royalty business is a wonderful thing. You get to sit back and let others do the work, and you just collect checks and you keep your overhead down. So Patty, that's your business model. Patty's from Orogen Royalties. Thanks for joining us today, Patty.
Good morning, Allan. Thanks for having me.
Patty, I wanted to start out with you kind of have a unique perspective as a royalty company into the gold space. I believe there's a strong market coming for gold. The reasons are quite significant. We can see what's happening with the banking crisis. I think that's going to cause the Federal Reserve to stop raising interest rates, which will be hard for the US dollar to keep going up, which means that gold should be going up. But what I wanted to ask you about is what's your sort of feeling on the industry these days, and how does that enhance your story as a royalty company?
I think there's a greater demand. There's a greater interest in owning precious metals projects or getting access to precious metals projects. And the foundation of Orogen is built on a history of prospect generation. So the projects that we have created over the years provide the opportunity to create royalties through discovery, and that's what we now have. And so we have a number of these option agreements or joint ventures, some people call them, and we partner with a variety of junior companies. We partner with a variety of major mining companies, and these are the projects that go on to create the royalties for us in the future. And based on what we're seeing in the market today, there is certainly a renewed sense of demand for these types of projects.
So Patty, you talked about your prospect generating, and you've kind of had a interesting career in the mining space, in that you started very young in your teens, and you had a hell of a mentor in Bob Darney, your uncle. Sadly is no longer with us, but Bob was a very talented geologist that many people in the industry had as mentors, including myself, when we worked together with Bob. Tell us a little bit about your life in exploration and the mining business, because I think that is important in your business model.
Yes, for the most part, in my early career, I was focused on sort of the single asset focus, number of copper porphyry targets, VMS targets, gold targets up and down the Western North America, the Western Cordillera of North America, and got a lot of exposure, both boots on the ground and also corporately running a number of junior exploration companies. But in 2010, I got the opportunity to start a new company called Epithermal Resources, and that company basically took early stage exploration targets, and instead of putting our own money into it to try to take it all the way through discovery and beyond, we tended to focus on putting those opportunities in the hands of option partners or joint venture partners. They take on the high risk of the continued exploration. We end up clipping either a minority interest, share payments or cash payments, and ultimately a royalty as well. And so the early part of my career helped shape my focus on understanding risk, and sometimes that hurts. And when you put a lot of effort into drilling, you don't get a lot of results. So instead of taking that risk on our own shoulders, we've put it into our partners' hands. They obviously get to take a majority interest of the project, but we're happy to hang on to part of it, and also clip the royalty, which I believe is one of the key value creators for a group like Orogen.
Prior to starting your public company, you also got an MBA. So you're kind of an interesting cat in that regard because you've got an MBA and lots of experience with boots on the ground in the mining sector.
Yes, that's right. I had a lot of, I guess, exposure to geology, and a lot of it's come through, I think, osmosis in some ways, but I did get a broad exposure, was mentored by a lot of guys, including Bob, and I've learned a lot along the way, but tended to focus more on business management, financial management of trying to run a public company, and I think that's helped me well in my career.
And you've got a heck of a team there, vetting projects, doing deals. Little bit about your team.
Yes, no, I have a great team of geologists. The team is led by Lawrence Pryor, young geo, VP of exploration, and he manages a great group of guys from here in British Columbia through Nevada and all the way down into Mexico. So I have a great team in Reno, which is Mark Kulba, Eli Turner. This is the group that actually made the original, created the original opportunity on Silicon back in, I believe it was 2014. And the team in Mexico that I've got, which includes Ignacio Camarena, was also part of that group that helped us understand what goes on in the Rio Sonora Valley with respect to our Ermitaño project that is now being run by First Majestic.
And not to mention the Sarape project that my company, Advanced Lithium, has in close proximity.
That's right.
So Patty, one of the things that I've always paid a lot of attention to is the Lassonde curve. And there's three important parts of that. You've got your success on exploration, you've got your companies in the development discount window, and you've got your companies as they transition into miners, and you get a big spike on that. Now, I think the two sweet spots that I'm most focused on is pre-production, early production, and that exploration. But I also am cognizant of the fact that you can make money in the development discount window, especially in the transition from a bear market to a bull market, because those assets tend to get very discounted. And as new investors come in, you can see a better valuation for those assets. So you've got projects across the curve.
That's right. Yeah, we have projects from their infancy that are exceptionally green fields, very raw targets. A lot of them are based on mapping, sampling, some geophysical characteristics which are attractive for an early stage company or company looking for an early stage project. And then we have projects that are drilling. We have 8 projects this year that will be drilled by partners. And so there's lots of opportunity to come from those projects. And then we've got the projects that are further along, like the Silicon Project, which is a gold project in the Walker Lane in Nevada. It's being developed now by AngloGold Ashanti. And then the Ermitaño mine, which is now in production and being run by First Majestic Silver. And we have royalties on both the Ermitaño and Silicon Project.
So let's start with Ermitaño. Now in 2022, Ermitaño made that transition for you where it went from development into mining and created your first cash flowing royalty. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's an important point for people to understand. Mm-hmm. But let's start with Ermitaño. Sure. It's high grade, low cost, free cash flow generating money making machine, if you will, and has lots of room to grow the mine life going forward. Tell us a little bit about Ermitaño.
Sure. So Ermitaño is in Sonora, Mexico, located in what we call the Rio Sonora Valley. And in that area, you've got not only the Ermitaño mine, but the Santa Elena mine. You've got Mercedes, you've got Las Chispas, and these I think are well-known mines, especially amongst the various investor groups. Ermitaño is started as about close to 1 million ounce gold equivalent resource, and at the time of the proven and probable reserves that were announced, there was I think it was 330,000 ounces gold, and that represents roughly, I would say, 40% of the overall resource that was announced. And so what it afforded us was the ability to sort of see for the next 7 years based on the proven and probable resources. Obviously, there's a lot to come in from the inferred resources to be converted over into proven and probable. So we expect to see that transpire over the next while. It's producing very well for us. We collected close to 3.7 million Canadian revenue in 2022. We expect to be well over 4 million for 2023. We anticipate close to 2,000, up to 2,000 ounces of gold equivalent ounces being attributed to our royalty. So that's going to provide us very, very good cash flow. And then beyond that, the royalty AOI that we've got is close to 220 square kilometers of land. So it's a very large land package. And with the drilling that First Majestic has undertaken over the course of 2023, they've got 20,000 meters of sort of near mine infill drilling. So to improve the confidence from the existing resource, moving inferred resources into an indicated or proven and probable status, but then also to expand in the mine complex itself. They've done a fair bit of expansion to the east within the deposit itself, and so we see additional resources coming in that way. So the mine life itself is we see significantly beyond the 7 years, and it's more like a 10 to 12 year plus mine life. And in addition to that, we have a large land package to the south called Kumababi. Again, same sort of style of rocks, same targets, same opportunity, where we see expansion plans that would hopefully materialize in the years to come. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity within that district for Orogen.
Well, just on the epithermal veins alone that Ermitaño is, I've done my homework because old Bob used to tell me to watch for the gold distribution, and it not just along the strike, but in the drill holes. And there's excellent continuity. Then it plunges downward, and as it plunges, it's wide open to add a lot of ounces over there. And then epithermal veins are always found in clusters. So the chances that there's more Ermitaños in that cluster is very good as well.
Yes, Ermitaño represents one ore shoot. And so there's other opportunities to find more. Santa Elena, which is about, it's probably 4 or 5 kilometers away from Ermitaño, is another. These vein systems tend to travel east to west within the district. And so their royalty AOI, as I mentioned, is quite large. And so the opportunity to continue to find vein systems that potentially hold additional ore shoots is quite strong. As you indicated, there's some expansion that's going on in the mine itself. The original area that they're working in right now is called the Ermitaño Splay. They have yet to move into what they call the Central Ermitaño, and then the potential right now from just the mine itself is called Ermitaño Luna, which we're hoping to see some updated resource numbers coming either later this month or early next. So again, lots of opportunity to grow within this mine complex.
And that's how those epithermal veins are kind of grown and built. Is you know, for example, at Fresnillo, the city of Fresnillo, there's a cluster there that's been in production since the 1500s, and there's more being found all the time. And you guys could sort of fit a Fresnillo and Mag Silver into that big claim block that you have.
I hope so.
And that's not your only potential. I have to talk about Sarape because I'm the CEO of Advanced Lithium, and we sold you a royalty on a Kenya project and got 100% interest in Sarape. You guys maintain a royalty, and it's very early stages, but there's two big epithermal veins not that far away from Ermitaño that only had about a handful of holes into them, and pretty good chance that there's the boiling zone hasn't been hit in those yet.
Yes, Sarape is a large land package. It's about 20 kilometers to the north of Ermitaño. Very large vein system. They're very prominent. They stick out and they travel upwards of, I believe, 6 kilometers. And you're on highway access. So it's a great underexplored exploration opportunity for somebody looking to be exposed to something like a possible discovery like an Ermitaño or something else in that camp.
Like the sounds of that, Patty. So, okay, so that's your cash flowing royalty. And then you've got the one in the development discount window, which is Silicon.
Yes.
It's a hell of a project to have in that window. They've already talked about a 4 million ounce resource of oxide gold. That's just from the main Silicon area. Then you've got Merlin. Anglo Gold Ashanti is the one developing that project. That's a very exciting project to me.
Yes, we have a considerable land package in Nevada, and when you talk about considerable, things are generally much smaller in terms of their land size than in Mexico. You can get very large land packages. It's tough to get a large land package in Nevada. Because the competition is so high. But our land package is large. It currently sits at 79 square kilometers. And we have a 1% NSR royalty in the district. AngloGold Ashanti has been developing the Silicon project now since 2017. They're very coy on their exploration results. In fact, they haven't put out one drill hole yet. But we live vicariously through their public disclosure on where they're at with respect to their resource. They announced at the end of February a 4.2 million ounce resource. Of that, 3.4 is indicated, and then another 800,000 ounces is inferred. There's also 17.7 million ounces of silver on top of that as well. So it's one portion of the whole district, and we're exceptionally encouraged by the results that AngloGold's made to date. They continue to drill in the area. They're currently going through a PFS, pre-feasibility study. So we hope to see some enhanced economics on the resource. The other components of the project comprise what they call the Merlin zone, which you indicated is coming. AngloGold has been drilling the Merlin now since 2020. They expect to integrate the Merlin zone into the Central Silicon as a part of the PFS. So they've got a budget of, I believe it's US $50 million this year. They've got 12 drill rigs that they're bringing on to into the district itself, but I believe a lot of that's going to be allocated towards Merlin. There's also another zone called Maverick. There's one called Frying Pan. So the AngloGold has obviously, I think, they have made a stake in this district. They've invested $600 million in the lands around Silicon. So they bought Corvus Gold out in 2021 for $450 million, and then they bought Coeurs lands to the south of Merlin last year for $150 million. And so obviously there's an intent here of scale and size, longevity, and so you can really see the movements of what AngloGold is doing, and we're very excited by it. So it's taking longer than we had hoped, obviously, to get some clarity on resources and reserves and potential and things like that. But based on the actions, and this is sort of how we've judged AngloGold's work over the past few years, is a lot of it's anecdotal evidence, but all the work that they're doing is a clear sign that there's something of significant size here. And we're
not just
very
the work, but
that.
their comments in some of their public commentary is quite interesting as well.
Yeah, their CEO is very bullish on the camp and the silicon in its own right. We're a little bit restricted by what we can and cannot say regarding the deposit, because we are bound to 43-101 and things like that. But his commentary is exceptionally encouraging.
So that when you look at a company with a project in the development discount window, it's a little bit different when you got someone like AngloGold Ashanti compared to a junior mining company that's trying to push its way through there, has to raise money along the way. AngloGold Ashanti can narrow that development discount window. And the other big point you brought up was that they're really planting their flag in that Bullfrog District.
Yes. I think from the perspective of what a major can do versus what a junior can do, beyond the exploration that's going on, there's a whole permitting process underway that I think is it's well understood. It's not super well documented. It's the stuff that people don't get super excited about, but it is the most important thing when you're going through a mine development process. And they've got a big team that's currently there, and that's something juniors, they can drill. Juniors are great at drilling, but you need that other level of expertise to take a project forward. And so there's a large permitting process, and it's one of the reasons why Anglo bought Corvus, is that they were well on their way from a permitting perspective. So that gave them a several years head start on developing the district. There was also water rights within that acquisition, which I think are very important as well for the overall camp, or for the development of the camp. So there was a lot of reasons just beyond the resources itself that they bought some of these lands. But we're looking forward to production starting in the camp 2025. And that starts with the North Bullfrog deposit. We don't have a royalty on that one, but the big one is obviously at Silicon, and that sounds like it's coming late 2027, early 2028 type of thing.
Well, so you're not that far away from another cash flowing royalty.
Nope, that's right.
Now, you had some interesting news out not last week, I believe it was, that you've optioned your project in British Columbia.
Yep.
This is a very big land package, and tell us a little bit about that deal, because that would be one that's more in the on the left side of the first wave of the Lassonde curve.
That's right. The Ball Creek project, we're going to shift ourselves up into Northwest British Columbia now, into the Golden Triangle. And the Ball Creek project, as we call it, is a large land package. It was 539 square kilometers, so huge. Almost too big, I think, for a single company to take it on in itself. There's a number of porphyry targets spread from east to west on the project, and you can point at various analogs, whether it's a KSM type target, which is one of the well-known deposits in the Golden Triangle, or Galore Creek or Shaft Creek. So there's various geological complexes within the project in itself, and so it's hard to spend any sort of particular time on one. So what we decided to do is to take this project and split it into two. And so the western portion has gone to a group called P2 Gold. These are the ex-Pretium guys. And so we've actually sold that project to them outright for $1 million worth of stock. We've clipped a royalty, and with the option to buy an additional royalty. And then on the east side, we've optioned the project out to a group called Kingfisher. And that's a $3.5 million cash or stock or cash payment, $7.5 million worth of work. And we have the option to buy a royalty. We've clipped a royalty on their Exdal project. And there's an internal claim block called Hank, where Orogen already held a 3% royalty. And that's now being put to work because Kingfisher also optioned that project at the same time. So it was a four-party deal, if you will, to get that deal done. So we're excited about it. It took a bit of time. But what it means, I think, for investors and shareholders is that the project is going to be put to work. It will have sort of a dual focus on the respective sides of the project. And I think we've got it in very capable hands in both parties. So we're excited for it.
Well, one of those parties I know very well, which is P2 Gold, because not only were they a company that I've interviewed their management, and I'm very impressed with them, because what it started out with is I was a big bull on Pretium when they were about a $3 stock, and they ultimately became, I think, a $19 takeover. And these guys came from a big company, Ken McNaughton and Joe. And they're very talented guys at exploration and mine development. So you got a hell of a partner there.
Yep.
And then on the other side, I recently watched an interview of the Kingfisher guys, and they brought out some really, I got the impression that they're very talented explorationists as well, but they talked about the infrastructure in the area, and that's pretty important as well.
Yeah, and it's one of the things about Bald Creek that you don't see in a lot of other projects in the Golden Triangle, because there's a lot of remoteness, if you will. I spend a lot of summers myself working up there, so I know what it's like to be in that part of the world. But with Bald Creek, certainly you've got the mountains, but you've got Highway 37, which clips the eastern side of the project. In fact, it runs through it. And so the infrastructure that comes with that highway includes the high tension power line, which goes to Red Chris, which is being operated by Newcrest and Imperial. And so, yeah, I mean, you're not far away from having access to I guess called luxuries in the Golden Triangle. So that's, I think, a very important component when you're looking at the economics of these things, because a lot of the deposits in the Golden Triangle, they're fantastic, but they're not easy to get to, and there's I would say, a bit more difficulty in permitting some versus others. So.
Well, that's a heck of a deal. And I know we're getting short on time here, Patty, and you've been very kind with your time.
No,
Before I let you go, though, I wanted to sort of give people a flavor for the you're involved with a lot of majors, but you're also involved with the junior in Headwater. I've watched a bunch of their interviews, and very talented team when it comes to exploration of epithermal veins systems. And that's a kind of project that you've optioned to them.
That's right. So the Spring Peak project, we optioned to Headwater in 2021. It's epithermal target, sits in Nevada in the Walker Lane. Caleb Stroop and his team took the option on. They had a very small drilling program towards the end of 2021. Made, I guess we'll call it the initial discovery hole. It was about a 30-meter intercept or 28-meter intercept of 1 gram. So interesting, not market shaking type numbers, but it was a great start. And I'll give him a lot of credit. Caleb and his team brought in the Newcrest people, and I think sort of the initial terms, sort of 15 million US over the next 3 years to get 51% interest. So they went out late last year, drilled down the structure from the original hole, and I believe that one of the bigger numbers was sort of 38 meters at 2.74 grams per ton gold. So that's quite a few hundred meters down structure. And so they're into something. And there's some high grade hits in there as well. So are you in sort of a boiling zone? That's quite possible within this epithermal target. The challenge, I think, for them this year will be to move along strike to start to add ounces to that. But this is the type of project, and you look at all the other projects that we've got under option, any one of them can step forward and be that next discovery for us. And the way that we look at something like a Spring Peak, because we can earn up to a 1% NSR on the project, it becomes the next pillar in our royalty structure. And so you take these things, again, these are all organically generated. We don't buy these royalties, and so we get to see it from discovery through to production. And we get the forefront of the mine life. They're in tier 1 jurisdictions, and ultimately you're associated. Headwater is a great group, but they've also got Newcrest to do the heavy lifting when it comes to the major amounts of drilling and the permitting and beyond. So you get a very good exposure to top tier operators as well.
So Patty, we only talked about 4 of your projects today. You've got a whole bunch of others, and they're in either juniors or majors' hands.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good reflection of the quality of your project generation.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, we have 14 of these types of opportunities that are outstanding. We partner with big companies, Nevada Gold Mines, Barrick, BHP, Pan American Silver now, and to startups and privates. And so it gives you a broad exposure to different groups. Some are more aggressive than others, and some are, but they're all, generally good at raising money, especially, well, obviously the big ones, they have budgets, so we don't worry about that so much. So, but what this means is that we've got 8 drilling campaigns coming up this year, all partner funded. So we get to sort of sit back and watch these development stories or exploration stories unfold, and we're rooting for every one of them to make a big hit. So just sort of wait and see.
Excellent, Patty. Did you have any closing comments?
Not so much so. I just think this year is going to be a very impressive year for Orogen. Not only do we have a significant growth in resources at Silicon, we see continued steady progress at Ermitaño. We're profitable. We have no debt. And we've got a ton of exposure to the upside. And so we continue to generate projects internally, and that's based on the exploration team that we've got, and they do a fantastic job at generating projects for us. We've got an excellent shareholder in Altius Minerals. They own 16% of us. In fact, we do an alliance with them, working to try to find more silicon type projects in Nevada. And so, yeah, I think we're very well positioned right now in the space that we're in. And I think from an investor standpoint, there's a lot of potential, tremendous potential for this company to grow over the next year.
Well, I'm going to close it off, Patty. We can have a quick chat at the other end, and thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Al. Appreciate it.
So there you go, folks. One of the key catalysts that I see upcoming for mining related companies is the price of gold. I'm very bullish on the price of gold. I think not only is the price of gold going to go up, but so are the companies involved with that metal. And I think we're about to be on the verge of a lot of generalist investors coming into the space, and some will have different risk profiles. And I believe that Orogen is a very good candidate for those generalist investors that want a little less risk and still be exposed to the upside. When I look at a company that I think is undervalued, I look at the catalysts. One of those is the metals prices. Secondly is the catalysts from their projects. And as Patty was mentioning, they've got a lot of catalysts ahead of them. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors to assess the risk profile that you have and the suitability for any of the companies that I follow or talk about or interview. And the most important thing is do your homework. You want to be well informed on the companies you're investing in. And go to Orogen's website, and you'll find lots of great information there, and check out their partners. You can find a lot of information about the Silicon Project and Ermitaño from First Majestic and AngloGold Ashanti. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.